We can understand these similar themes and symbols used in the Sumerian, Greek, and Hebrew mythos as part of this larger story of creation myth, where ages of men described through the four metals and heroic ages, and chthonic deities with the symbolism of the underground play onto themes of sex and reproduction as allegory for the seasonality of nature, mankind, and civilization. And these are used as components to tell this grander story of the creation of the universe itself. And we can understand this as creation through consumption. We can recognize Yahweh and Hephaestus as consumption gods, and through this they are able to create new worlds or ages of men. In contrast to Enki, who we know as a creation god, much like that in Genesis 1 from the Hebrew Bible. But in the end, we're talking about the same moralizing effect, where these chthonic Semitic gods from the Bronze Age spread their religion, and in doing so create the world as we know it. In one way we can understand this consumption theme is through the symbol of a staff or scepter. It's not just the shield that Hephaestus crafts, he also makes the staff of Agamemnon that gives him his rightful rule over Argos and the Achaeans at large. In Book 2 of the Iliad, Homer explains how the staff was passed down from Zeus to Hermes to Agamemnon. So let's read. From Homer's Iliad, Book 2. With this he led the way from the assembly, and the other sceptered kings rose with him in obedience to the word of Agamemnon. But the people pressed forward to hear. They swarmed like bees that sally from some hollow cave and flit in countless throng among the spring flowers, bunched in knots and clusters. Even so did the mighty multitude pour from ships and tents to the assembly, and ranged themselves upon the wide watered shore. While among them ran wildfire Rumor, messenger of Zeus, urging them to ever to the fore. Thus they gathered in a pell-mell of mad confusion, and the earth groaned under the tramp of men as the people sought their places. 9 heralds went crying about among them to stay their tumult, and bid them to listen to the kings, till at last they were gotten to their several places and ceased their clamor. Then King Agamemnon rose, holding his scepter. This was the work of Hephaestus, who gave it to Zeus, the son of Cronos. Zeus gave it to Hermes, slayer of Argos, guide and guardian. King Hermes gave it to Pelops, the mighty charioteer, and Pelops gave it to Atreus, shepherd of his people. Atreus, when he died, left it to Thyestes, rich in flocks, and Thyestes, in his turn, left it to be borne by Agamemnon, that he might be lord of all Argos and all of the isles. Leaning then on his scepter, he addressed the Argives. And it's the staff that brings Agamemnon authority to rule and unite all the city-states of Greece. It's an accreditation, right? Kind of similar to the staff that Moses holds up in the Israelites' battle against the Amalekites in Exodus 17. And the Trojan War is like that battle, right? It's back and forth at the will of the god, or gods. And I would argue Enki, Hephaestus, and the Cyclopes, Moses, and Yahweh are all very similar figures, and most likely the same. I mean, Moses comes in this wicker basket, which is the same word for ark in Hebrew and even Egyptian. And it's like Tartarus for the Cyclopes and the Apsu for Enki, the cave for Hephaestus, all the same. Basically, this confined box or cell that these chthonic gods are essentially in exile or an arrested state in, and then they come out of it and usher in this new order, and through this symbolic birth of a child, right? It's an allegory for this birth of a child. And there's this seasonal theme to it. It's like the Eleusinian mysteries and the cults from Minoan Greece on the island of Crete, where this cult of the birth of the divine child in a cave. And you can argue the Iliad is kind of this retelling of these Eleusinian mysteries and this Jewish Old Testament mythology. The springtime as this infancy, like Enki and Hephaestus and Moses, who are cast away or in exile in this cave, wicker basket, Apsu, and their mother or this midwife figure saves them. And then they eventually are able to enter this once hostile society and become the most powerful god or person of that society or civilization, right? Think of Moses and his help from Yahweh, or a lot like Hephaestus and Agamemnon, where it's Yahweh who creates the staff for Moses that ultimately wins the war against the Amalekites. And it's Yahweh who comes to Moses in the form of a burning bush, like Hephaestus, the fire god. And Yahweh has Aaron use the staff to inflict the plagues onto the Pharaoh in Egypt. And the plagues, along with the flaming bush, are examples of this consumption god, where Yahweh and Hephaestus appear as fire, or even locusts in the Exodus that consume the resources of the current political ruling class. In Enki and the World Order, the golden scepter of Enki is mentioned 3 times. The first 2, he talks about his boat captain, who I can't identify, as holding his golden scepter. And the mention of the boat captain is within the context of a larger metaphor of the hierarchy and organization of Enki's cult, as explained through his boat and the riverbank system of the Euphrates and the Tigris River. Again, Enki and the World Order is a creation myth, so let's read from it. Enki and the World Order, lines 100 to 122. The lords to me, I am Enki. They stand before me, praising me. The Abgal priest and the Abrig officials who stand before me, distant days. The officiants organize. They purify the river for me, the interior of the shrine for me. In my Apsu, sacred songs and incantations resound for me. My barge, crowned, the stag of the Apsu, transports me there, most delightfully. It glides swiftly for me through the great marshes to wherever I have decided. It is obedient to me. The stroke collars make the oars pull in perfect unison. They sing for me pleasant songs, creating a cheerful mood on the river. The captain of my barge holds the golden scepter for me. I am Enki. He is in command of my boat. Stag of the Apsu, I am the Lord. I will travel. I am Enki. I will go forth into my land, the Lord who determined the fates. And finally, by the end of the poem, Enki in the World Order, he begins giving out responsibilities and decrees to junior gods. So, lines 267 to 277. Enki, the Lord of the Destinies, Enki, the King of the Apsu, placed in charge of all this, whom holds a scepter in his right hand. Him, whose glorious mouth submits to verification, the devouring force of the Tigris and Euphrates, while prosperity pours forth from the palace like oil, and Belulu, the inspector of the waterways. So both Enki and Hephaestus have this staff or scepter to which holds the power of these 2 entities. In the Sumerian case, it's the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. In the Iliad, it's Agamemnon who wields a staff that gives him the right to both Troy and Greece, and who wields Moses' staff over the Nile River and speaks for Moses to the Pharaoh as the voice of Yahweh and starts the plague of blood. And Enki also has a consort or a scribe, minister of some kind, called Isimud, who many identify as Janus, the Roman god with 2 faces opposing each other, and is thought as this liminal god who guides between 2 spaces or time. And I would argue that Isimud is like Aaron, in that he talks for Enki as words of the Lord, right? Like Aaron who talks as the words for Yahweh, for Moses, who said he's not articulate or well-spoken enough to persuade the Israelite elders that he is in fact communicating with the God Yahweh, and he's not some crazy lunatic and making it all up. And Isimud we know from Enki's journey to Nippur, so here, let's read from that poem. Lines 18 through 25. Before Lord Enki, Isimud, the minister, praises the temple. He goes to the temple and speaks to it. He goes to the brick building and addresses it. Temple, built from precious metal and lapis lazuli, whose foundation pegs are driven into the Apsu, which has been cared for by the prince in the Apsu. Like the Tigris and the Euphrates, it is mighty and awe-inspiring. Joy has been brought into Enki's Apsu. And then further along into the poem, we get 68 through 70. What Enki says is irrefutable, is well established. This is what Isimud spoke to the brick building. He praised the temple with sweet songs. And Aaron from Hebrew, or Isimud from Sumerian, identify with Nestor, the most articulate, persuasive of the elder Greeks. And they are these liminal gods or characters that navigate in between the action, these seasonal changes, right? Where Enki, Hephaestus, Moses, I understand, are spring and autumn gods in that they bring us in and out of winter. And the scribal or herald figures like Aaron are the liminal figures that provide us, once again, the legitimacy to the medium between God and man, this religious faith. They provide proof with the staff or scepter, and through the stature as elders and through their oratory skills are able to explain away what is obviously growing tension or discontent in the camp, like Nestor, who's always there to rationalize or rally the Greeks to stay in the fight in the Trojan War, and Aaron, who explains away the complete subversion of the Egyptians and the Pharaoh, and he even steals their gold and silver on the way out, right, to create this tabernacle with it. You need this character to navigate that dicey time from spring to or autumn to winter and out of winter to spring. And like Isimud or the captain of Enki's barge, these are these liminal characters. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and look out for the next one in this series exploring the similarities between the Sumerian god Enki and the Greek god Hephaestus, along with the Hebrew deity Yahweh. See ya!